Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hello.
Kyle Schrum, how you doing?
Hello.
And Ashley Hicks, what's up?
Don't steal my thing.
Hello.
There it is, just
goodness.
everybody.
I'm leaving.
I feel like I need to do it too, but I don't think I could replicate it. So, Ashley went first this last week. Joe, how's life, man? Do you have any updates?
Most important this week?
Yeah, this week.
Well, it's going to be ruined because I got nothing. Life's no different.
These are the pandemic updates, and they're getting better.
Yeah. I just realized, because I don't pay attention to calendars unless it's like for programming and stuff, I realized it's June and I shouldn't be in the States anymore, but I am. So there's that.
I realized it was June. That's a good update. It says a lot more than you could have said. I mean, after you figure out that chapstick problem, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's warmer out, so I don't have that issue.
Like, what more could you worry about?
Yeah. That's where I'm at.
That was phenomenal. Your beard's gotten longer. I'm going to give updates for you. His beard is longer, and
wiry.
That's about it. He has a chili pad for the air at his house. It was crazy.
Yeah, I just taught everybody what that was.
Yeah.
Also known as the air conditioner.
Man.
Kyle, save us. What do you have?
I don't know how much I'm going to be able to save it because my life's not much different.
Well, you're in an office. That's just
week.
that's just huge.
Yeah, I would say Hannah and I have worked out new work hours for me where I'm leaving the house now and going to my office at the church building, and I'm having some uninterrupted work time, which has been very, very nice. Now that she's not having to work as well and having to trade off as much with the kids, she's just like, okay, go do your work. And I'm like, this is great. So yeah. Getting more focused and organized and back into a routine. And I'm the only one here. So whole building, all to myself.
Fantastic.
Super social distancing.
Absolutely.
I want another update. I was thinking about you the other day. Whatever happened to those migraines?
Funny story. They actually went away. I had one like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And actually, it was mostly just the blurred vision, and I didn't really get much of a headache. And then, again, today, it hit me. And
you had a migraine today?
Yeah. Like just
again, the blurred vision.
It was just kind of the blurred vision and then not really much of a headache, which I would rather have the headache than the blurred vision. But I don't know. Vision was blurry for about 20 minutes and then it went away. So, but I have no clue. I have no idea where it comes from. It's just hitting me. But it's not regular like it used to be. So that's good.
Dairy though recently, didn't you?
Definitely less dairy than it used to be. So it's not completely out, but it's definitely less than it was. So
that's kind of how I am. I'm like dairy free. I would say 95. Well, it's not a daily thing. It's not daily dairy. It's more like you order some tacos and there's cheese in it. And you're like, well, without cheese, it's literally just chicken. So I don't know if I can go completely dairy free here. I have to make those hard decisions.
There's other toppings for tacos.
I was about to say, like, what kind of tacos are you eating?
I can update you on taco update or toppings if you really want me to, but
I feel attacked.
Another time.
Ashley, what are your updates?
I just dropped my in-laws off at the airport, so they're gone. And then my mom comes in, so we're just being like knocked out with family. It's been good though. It's really nice to have some family time, and Connor's loving it too, so it's nice. But last week I talked about the functional nutritionist and pursuing that and whatnot. But I was told by multiple people that basically have TRICARE or whatnot, maybe to see my PCM and kind of tell my PCM what my thoughts were and what I'm going to be doing. So, and then I don't want to be seen on base. I want to be seen kind of by more just doctors that potentially are cool with more natural routes, however you want to say. But it's a lot of hoops. And I haven't had to do this before. I've only just been seen by doctors on base. Well, not even, I've been seen by flight meds on base, I should say. So, but to be continued, because I've been told that, I can get a lot of things done by my PCM, like, a full panel thyroid test, not just the, kind of simple, they only take your TSH, your T3 and T4 on base, and that's about it. So, so it'd be nice to have some things knocked out before I actually hire someone to dive in deeper, if you will.
I could probably help a little bit with that, but we can talk about that another time.
Sounds good.
I think not nutrition, medical stuff in general, like, because I've been there with the military too. You really have to DIY a lot of your health in this world. And that's the unfortunate truth I'm learning. The older I get, the more you see medical care, hospitals, all these things. Like, even if you just go get routine blood work, like, okay, I want to, because you don't know what to ask for if you haven't done you're like, I want just a blood panel. They're like, fine, yeah, we'll run the normal thing. And then there's going to be like 10 things left off that you probably should have gotten that you don't know. So it's almost like this rabbit hole you have to dive into. And then you have to ask for these specific things. And it's not that your doctor's opposed to them. They just don't know what you're trying to do. So that you have to get very vocal about, this is what I want and why I want it. So I've just realized that. That's why we moved. I have a weird doctor now.
Yeah. And
online doctor.
Active duty, you're kind of stuck with what you got, but as now a dependopotamus, I got some better options, so I can help you out.
Triceratops.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. So for me, not a lot life-wise, a lot like Joe, Kyle. I mean, Ashley's life is more interesting right now. Okay. So she didn't like, we're not going to discuss this. Like, it didn't happen, but we had a team meeting this week.
Uh-oh.
And she was at the beach.
Yeah. We have video capabilities now.
Yeah.
So I would say life is pretty awesome. Like, you gotta
I didn't say it was bad.
No, I think that was really cool. And I'm super jealous. Makes me miss Florida really bad, because if I had like a day off or something, we'd run down to the beach or, had some time off, and you made me miss Florida very badly during our team meeting.
My door's always open.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of people
drive.
around. I'm waiting for the current guests. Actually, I want to know the day that your current guests leave, where I can show up shortly after. That way you can just have like a full month of like your house being taken.
Encroachment.
June 15th, but I think we're going to meet the Shrums maybe for another beach day. So
he already claimed it. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work in July somewhere. Okay. So for me, updates are very minimal. Like I said, we are in the middle of a 30-day Killing Comfort journal challenge. So I mentioned at the end of last podcast that there is a Killing Comfort planner. And I just kind of want to let people know where this fits in. So Killing Comfort is going to be more worked into just everything that we're doing, because I think it's not just the book. It's more of like an idea for me. Like, I want people to stick to programs and do hard things and become better. And Killing Comfort is kind of how we do that. And so, yes, we're always going to be focused on programming and fitness and coaching, but I want you to also be pursuing getting better in all these other areas. So we have the Killing Comfort Planner. You can go check out. If you have the book, I mean, you probably already have access to it. Joe, is there anything I should announce on like how to get it or whatever that you're seeing? Like we're sending it out. I think we've done a pretty good job. Just wondering if you've noticed anything that questions.
The freebies?
Yeah, the planner and all the bonuses and everything.
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, if you got the book,
if you need them, we'll send them a link, but they'll be sent out each in batches each week for those that reach out or whatever.
Yeah, and so we're doing the planner this month, and it's all like super uncomfortable, because I basically gave people a PDF, and I was like, hey, we're doing this 30-day challenge. Print it off or do it on your iPad, whatever, which is not the most fun way to do like a planner or a journal, right? But it's intentionally uncomfortable. But there will be a printed version of this, so like a copy that you can purchase and get delivered. So an actual hard copy of a planner. So that's coming. And I just want to kind of let people know how that's fitting in. I'm not trying to take over your entire life, but if you are part of this ecosystem, I definitely want you to get better. And so the Killing Comfort Planner, that's kind of where it fits in. It's more of like your day-to-day sidekick beyond what we're doing at Garage Gym Athlete. And that is my update. You guys want to get into this study?
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I was telling Joe before we started, I have like a love-hate relationship with this study.
Well, yeah, I just have things to nitpick, but.
And all right, so I have to, here it is. Viscous, placebo, and carbohydrate breakfast similarly decrease appetite and increase resistance exercise performance compared with a control breakfast in trained males. Did I say that first word right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sounds close to right. All right, so what they did, I'll give the basics. They gave some people water, some people a semi-solid carbohydrate-based breakfast, and then a very low-energy placebo to 22 resistance-trained men. And then they had them test their 10-rep max, and then they came back in and did 4 sets to failure with 90% of their 1-rep max. And they just want to see, okay, does water only help better with your performance? Does the carbohydrate breakfast help better with your performance? Or does basically nothing, and I say basically nothing because there's still something in there, the placebo, and they're testing the performance on all this lifting. I don't think there's anything else I need to hit from the study people or design protocols. They're fairly well trained from what it looks like, and they do eat breakfast. But a reason I want to cover the study is a question I get all the time, like pre-workout meals. I've just gotten asked that a lot over the years, I would say. And I wanted to kind of put some science behind answering this question. And the results were pretty much almost the same between placebo and carbohydrate consumption compared to water only. So performance gains in total repetitions were close to the same in placebo and carbohydrate users, but not the water only people. And that's about it. Did I miss anything?
They did. The same people did a study earlier before that was just carbs and water. So then they redid the study again with carbs, the placebo, and water, and it was basically I found the same thing. That was one thing that they did.
And so the placebo, we should talk about. When I was initially reading it, I was like offended because they called it a placebo, but it had orange juice in it.
Yeah, I was like, it had stuff in it.
But so the placebo was a small amount of orange juice flavoring xanthan gum and water. And then they would mix for the carbohydrate. So you either just had that, or if you were doing the carbohydrate version, they would do 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight of maltodextrin, which is just like pure carbohydrate. So once I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. And there's only about 2 grams of carbohydrates in the placebo. I don't think that had like any effect on anything. But there was like on average, basically 120 grams of carbohydrates. Yeah. And then the water obviously had nothing. And the conclusion is kind of, if you think it helps, it does. Yeah. I think if you found like 10 participants who think drinking water only before your workout was a huge performance benefit, and you put them in this study, then they would just all be equal. Like the people who had water, the people who had placebo, and the people who had carbohydrates. So our pre-workout meals all in your head, and we can kind of pick apart some of this. But I'd love to get your thoughts, Joe. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the study because of how it was structured and all that. Did you mention the lifts and what they did? They did a max out of 90% of their, like max reps, 90% of their 10 rep max. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I didn't like about it is that how they conducted the study was all the participants, they did each protocol, but in a random order. So it didn't really, so I think I couldn't pull up to see how their progress was between week to week. So I feel like no matter what order you do it in, you're going to be adding reps for each. So I don't know how that would show a lot of the difference for the eating protocol. Like they're going to just automatically have the same benefits to each. It probably would have been better if they just kept people doing the same one over like a couple times a week for 3 or 4 weeks, because then you can actually gauge percent gained. But that would have been a bigger study. another issue that I had is that I think I remember reading in some nutrition books and stuff saying that a good researcher tries to disprove their hypothesis. And during this study, their hypothesis was exactly true for the results, which means they kind of just made a study to be like, oh, yeah, this is kind of what happened. See? Anyway, as I was looking over the difference in the sets, they did squat and bench press. Squat was the main one that had the benefits, but if you look at, they did 4 different sets for each, and the difference going from the first set to the last set, the carb group declined the fastest and the most, and the water group didn't decline as much. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So by the time the last set happened, the water group was pretty much even with the carb group versus in the beginning, the carb group was way higher.
Yeah, that's very true. Like set to set. And then even in the third set,
it was lower.
The placebo group was the winner in the third set, which is like random, right? It's like, well, why? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there was, it does show that there was a psychological factor to it, because, people were just thinking, oh, I ate this, so I'm going to do better. But I think it just depends on what you're training.
If you loaded me up with 120 grams of glucose before a workout, I don't know what would happen. I probably wouldn't perform well. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think they waited 2 hours. So it was a good amount of time, but still, I think that might be how many carbohydrates I have in any given day. And so you want to give them to me all at once in the form of maltodextrin, like, I'm not gonna feel great.
Well, they even said, like, in like the blood levels, the blood glucose levels by the time the workout happened, they had come down to normal, and they were all pretty much the same. So like there was a spike right after they ate, but then by the time workout actually happened, they returned to pretty much normal.
Yeah.
So I can let somebody else go before I just keep going off on tangents.
I've got some tangents too. So Kyle, what do you have?
I'm kind of interested to hear y'all's tangents, actually. One thing that I think that I noticed anyway was most of them, or well, all of the participants were regular breakfast eaters, right? So they're people who were used to eating breakfast before they trained. And so I think that may have put the water group at a bit of a disadvantage, because if you're used to getting breakfast before you train, and then now you're coming in and you're only having water before you train, and all you have is water and you still have to wait 2 more hours before you train, I feel like that's kind of a disadvantage, and kind of
that's a great point.
Would fudge the numbers a little bit in that direction. But personally, I feel better when I train fasted. Like that's just how I am. And maybe it's just because I've adapted to that, and just through being a garage gym athlete and doing our programming here, that's just kind of what I've done, is just started training fasted and just kind of adapted to it. So that's kind of what I stick to. But I think, for people like these people in the study who are regular breakfast eaters and regularly eat breakfast before they train, maybe that's just what they need to keep doing. If that's what works for you, then stick with it. But training fasted makes me feel better. Like I didn't get to train this morning before I came to work and started doing stuff. So I'm going to have to train this afternoon, and I don't know how it's going to go because I haven't trained after eating in a while. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway.
I know when I first started fasting, it was pretty difficult for me. Like I would be super hungry when it was time, and I could see that affecting me. I do feel like they put the water only people at a disadvantage there.
Yeah, and at the time of breakfast, when people were fed or they were given water, it was like they were already at 10 to 13 hours fasted. So you add another 2 hours to that, and that's even longer for us, and we do fast a lot.
Yeah, I think I train at that would be like, so say the 16-hour mark, that'd be like training when I'm supposed to end my fast. That's a long time to wait. Ashley, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
So I won't reiterate the things that Joe and Kyle said, because we all agree here. I think a lot of it is mental, especially with this study kind of showed that. But I think I'm going to kind of piggyback on Kyle. I think it's a lot about what your goals are. So how are you trying to gain some strength? Are you trying to shred some weight? What are you trying to do here? And Joe made a great point about you've got all this glucose, and we've talked a lot about zone 2. We've talked about trying to burn fat when you're working out. These people basically just burned straight sugar because that's what they had in their system this entire time. So, I agree with Kyle. I always feel better fasted. Working out, I feel lethargic when I have even just a small meal. And I'm talking like a shaker bottle with protein and water, and I still can't sometimes move as much as I do, or as fast. I guess I just feel slow and sluggish. So again, I think you have to kind of go, okay, what am I doing this for? What are my specific goals? What am I training for? And then how am I going to use my eating window, my time window with that? So that's what I took away from this study.
Yeah. And, Joe mentioning it, they only did lifting and no
conditioning.
No conditioning. I think that's a huge factor. And
it was max out too, max reps.
Here's my problem. I think the study, I think the study is I think they did a good job. Like, I think it was well executed. When I first read that they had orange juice, I was like, wait, why are they having orange juice? Because when I found out it was 2 grams, okay, probably not that big of a deal. But what I had more of a problem with, and I couldn't find mentioned anywhere, was just bioenergetics 101. So we use different fuel sources for different activities, right? And some other studies have come out recently that say if you consume more fat, your body will use more fat. If you consume more carbohydrates, your body will use more carbohydrates. So if you're stuffing someone full of 120 grams full of carbohydrates, yeah, they'll use those carbohydrates. Some of those carbohydrates in their lifting are in their training, but lifting specifically is it's completely in the creatine phosphate zone of energy systems,
right? Which
is without oxygen. You are utilizing creatine phosphate. You're utilizing creatine in these sets. Like, you could go into the sugar burning mode, like I said, because some of these studies have said if you consume more sugar, you'll use it. But I don't know why they didn't test that. I know that would be more expensive to test, but from an energy system perspective, you weren't even really using carbs or fat in the actual working sets. Like, you'd probably transition to carbs or fat during your recovery periods or something like that. That's metabolic flexibility. But I also wonder what if I tried giving someone 50 grams of fat in like MCTs, something, a little bit more concentrated. So say the exact same study, but I gave what would have been the carbohydrate people pure fat that can be utilized for energy really quickly. Would it just all be the same? Because essentially none of the food matters for 10 reps of a back squat. Like, your body's utilizing creatine phosphate. I have no idea how this was not mentioned. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than these scientists at all, but I'm just confused that it wasn't even like somewhere in their thought process that I could see about different energy sources, especially this one. Because if there was some conditioning component in here, then we could be like, yeah, maybe they use fat, maybe they use carbohydrate. We'd have to measure those things. But they basically trained one energy system, and they're saying it's all in your head, when I feel like they're just overlooking something completely. But maybe I'm missing something. I'm always open to that. I think I could have something wrong that they already thought about with their multiple degrees that they have on their wall, and I don't. So I'm just confused about that.
Sounds like one of those studies that a supplement company would cite to be like, hey, if you want to get 15% more reps, have these carbs before you work out.
Or have the placebo. I'm going to make the placebo. I think I should. Well, we used to talk, a big reason I want to do this study is we used to talk a lot more about the placebo effect, because it's like my favorite thing in science, because it's all the studies that have placebo that people improve. Like, people always improve on placebo. It's never like, the placebo group's all nothing. It's like, there's some improvement. I'm like, can we just talk about the brain for a second and how that's happening? Like, how are we getting better when you're actually given nothing? And so going back to Joe's Space Jam reference, it is just the secret juice or whatever.
Or
Michael Jordan's drink.
Yeah.
Michael's secret. Oh my God.
Yeah. And what was it? It was water, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we can all pull something from Space Jam here. If you think it helps,
obviously.
it does. All the time. Did any of you guys watch, this is going to be a tangent, did any of you guys watch that Michael Jordan thing, The Last Dance?
Most of it?
Yet. I intend to, but I haven't yet.
Wow. I'm ahead of one pop culture thing for once in my life.
So
I had
it was
like,
all about like drive and like getting your goal. So I'm not surprised.
yeah, I was,
Right up your alley, Jared.
I had like 15 different people ask me about it. And I'm like, when that happens, I'm like, okay, this is something. If just one person was like, hey, have you seen The Last Dance? I'd be like, I don't know. And then when you have that many different people ask you, because I was asked publicly on Mark Bell's podcast. That was the first I'd ever heard of it. He goes, at the end of the podcast, he's like, so you watched The Last Dance? And I was like, I think I'd heard it mentioned one other time. So that was like number 2 for me. I'm like, I heard of it, but I'm not. And so and then you hear more and more. And so anyway, I watched it. I thought it was good. And that was me jumping from Space Jam to Michael Jordan to Last Dance, bringing it back to, if you think it helps, it does. But I would say your pre-workout meal might not matter that much because your body is ready to go unless you completely run out of carbohydrates. And this is what I found out on my keto experiment when I was actually doing like 15 grams of carbohydrates a day. My body finally ran out of glycogen, and then you can feel it. And that was not something I was accustomed to feeling, not in a normal fasted workout. I could fast for 16 hours and train, and I still won't run out of energy because I get enough carbohydrates day to day, and your body can store those. But once I finally ran out, it was very obvious. And so if you think I'm not having a very good workout because I didn't have enough carbs, probably not the answer. You're probably just having an off day, because it's very apparent when your body actually runs out of carbohydrates to use, and it won't really like transition to using fat. It's very clear. It's very apparent, and you feel like trash. So it's all in your head.
That's why my Murph time went down.
There you go. Wait, what?
Nothing.
Well, my fastest Murph times I mentioned on a few podcasts ago have been fasted these days. So that's high intensity.
I think was referring to his nauseous Murph time. That he did.
When halfway through,
Yeah, but
I just
like, what was
ran out of fuel.
Well, yeah, what happened? Are you low carb? Like, how low carb are you? Do you think you
I
are?
don't measure, but I am
I said
fairly low
like,
carb.
Ballpark it.
I don't even know what I should be.
Where do you think you're at? Do you think you're at?
I'm probably close to a 30% split across the board.
It should be 33.
Yeah, whatever that adds up to. I just leave out the last 10% to whatever.
I transitioned back to low carb like a month or two ago, and I've been feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to act like carbohydrates weren't the enemy. They are. Let's just all be real. They are. No, I'm kidding. They're not actually the enemy, but they are for me, maybe.
I'm not in my own kitchen, my own house, so I have less control sometimes.
Dude, I don't even know how. I'm surprised you're even here, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
you haven't gone crazy yet. It's
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm a little bit disoriented right now.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk running. We got some good feedback on Joe's conversation about running from the last podcast. I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to dive in a little bit more. I feel like we towed the water on this topic, but we could all jump in a little bit because the more I started to think about what have I done to specifically try and improve my running, and there are some little things I've done here and there, even though I've never really considered myself a runner, and I don't think any of us probably consider ourselves like a runner. Actually, we might all hate running. Like we might all say that or have said that. No? Okay, Ashley doesn't agree.
I don't really mind it.
I used to hate running. I've made myself like it more. But still, if it was like, you want to go running for an hour or biking for an hour, it's an easy answer for me. So, Joe, how do we become better runners?
Check your form.
There it is. All right, Kyle.
So I've always been an athlete, like pretty much all my life, and I've played sports that done a lot of running. Lacrosse and soccer run a crap ton, and I've just done some other ones that do that. So I think I've just naturally had decent bit of running, but it's always been on the field. I've never had shin splints or anything like that either.
You've never had shin splints?
Never in my life. Don't even know what it feels like.
That's awesome.
I have, though, I do have a tendonitis in my Achilles, though, which has affected me some. And I mentioned last week, which is why I think my form gets messed up sometimes, because sometimes I don't flex my foot as much because it hurts my Achilles, or it takes me a while to warm up and I'm just running in pain for a couple of minutes because my Achilles just sucks like that. And well, having any kind of injury or soreness, you can really start to, you might change a little bit for like a minute or two in your run, but then it can carry over to your entire run. And then all of a sudden you're not running right. And I think that's what happened to me, is that I was just avoiding pain and not paying attention to my form. So that's what I did last week, is when I looked up some running stuff and really started to pay attention to how my foot strike was happening, and starting to lean forward more, because I think I was leaning back and heel striking more. So just assessing your form like that and making sure you're striking things as you should. Also pay attention to your arms. I notice this a lot when I see inexperienced runners, and I kind of feel bad at times, but there's some awkward people doing things with their arms that they just don't know what to do with their hands. They're just up here by their face.
T-Rex runners are my favorite.
Or they're like down by their waist. Like some people are just either they're way up here
Down by their waist.
Yeah.
Love it.
They're like really tight, or they're like hands are just
Like
down.
a robot.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, hands are numb. I'm just going. They're flopping around.
I love it.
So yeah, the lower body you got to pay attention to, but your arms are still there. They're not just gone.
Wow. I want to see somebody running with their arms down by their side.
I'm so triggered right now.
All right, Kyle, how do we get better at running?
Kyle, upload a video to
I don't know how I would. Okay. Anyway,
how have you improved your running? Have you gotten faster over the last couple years?
I have. I'm definitely in the I hate and will always hate running camp. But I will say I put this in the notes, and it was kind of as a joke, but kind of not. One thing that really helped me with my running was losing weight. So
that's legit.
No, it's a legitimate tip.
So, if you're lighter, you can typically run better, move better all together, and run faster most of the time. And so that's something that really helped me out. When I first joined Garage Gym Athlete, this was 2017. The first event that I did after joining was a 5K run. And something that Hannah and I had done before that was we went through the Couch to 5K app that you can get on. I've always had an iPhone, so I know you can get it on iPhone. I'm sure you can get it on Android as well. But it's really good about building it. It trains you to work up to a 5K in 30 days. And so it portions everything out for you where, you start out where you're walking for a certain amount of time, and then you're running for a certain amount of time. And then those intervals kind of change over time and get shorter and shorter until eventually you're just basically doing a warm up for a few minutes, and then you're just running for 30 minutes straight. So that's something that really helped me out with kind of getting in the rhythm. And Hannah ran cross country in high school, so she was giving me some tips as well to help me with my running as well. But I will also say on my notes, I have accept a challenge from a spouse. When I went to do that 5K race, it was a Veterans Day 5K, and it was at like 7:00 in the morning.
Pretty late.
Which means it was the race started at 7, which means I had to be there much earlier than that. And it was like 30-something degrees when I got there, super cold, did not want to be there.
Lots of comfort to kill.
Yeah. And I mean, I wore my PR shirt and all that, so it was a fun experience. But I was warming up and stuff, and, talking to Hannah about it. And, she was out there. Carter was very, very young at the time. And I think he was only a year old at the time. But so she was out there with a baby, and it's cold and all that stuff. And I was talking about, well, this would be great, if I could run this fast and finish it in this time. But I don't think I'll be able to run it without stopping. And she said, why can't you run it without stopping? And I was like, well, I guess now I can. So accept a challenge from a spouse or somebody that, means a lot to you. And
that's like my Emily Try Harder story.
Yeah. She basically just said, just don't stop. And I was like, okay. So I didn't. So I ran the whole thing without stopping, and have not run another 5K since, but still have a really good 5K story. So,
well, that's awesome. I love that story. So you did run a half marathon with me though, and Joe and Ashley.
Right.
Why do you guys always discount those? You're like,
I don't talk about that.
It's not something I relive.
Well, there was some shuffling involved too.
Yeah, it's not a 5K specifically, and also I think there's a part of my brain that's kind of blocked that experience out a little bit. And
I have vivid memories of you staring down obstacles like you just wanted to kill him.
Kyle's obstacle face is awesome.
He would just look at an obstacle like, oh my gosh.
The best part was when he would have to do the loop afterwards. Yeah. He was so mad.
I didn't know I had that kind of face. You guys described
it's
it to me, and I've never used that face for anything else that I know of. So,
Well, it was specifically, the one I got the best glimpse wasn't the big, harder obstacles. It was the one where like they had like 9 of them in a row where they're about rib cage height for me. And like you would,
one single pole.
Yeah. Just jump over like a log and then you keep going. Right. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to see, like I was done and I was like watching and I got to see Kyle do it like 9 times. Cause that's like how many there were. Or maybe there were 5. I don't remember. And you did it at every single one. You would stop and just stare at it for like 30 seconds. And I'm sure you're resting or whatever, but really you were like willing it to like break or go.
How can I run through this?
Yeah. Your mind was working on something else. And then you'd run, do it, and then you'd stop and do it again. Give the death stare to the next obstacle. It was awesome.
it was a dark place I was in. So anyway.
Ashley, how do we get better at running? I know you played a lot of soccer, which there's a lot of running involved. Were you the position where they run like a half marathon every game? Because isn't there like there's a
midfield?
Position?
I played midfield for a little bit, but I played defense for most of my life. Defense wins games. Just saying. You got to score. I know. Anyways, but and then in high school, my coach not knocking on my coach. He just didn't really have like an off season until my senior year. So we ran cross country for off season, which was terrible in August in Texas heat. It was the
He's
worst.
like, I don't know what to do with you. Go run.
Pretty much. That's what he made us do.
Love it.
Joe looks confused.
Well, because cross country is fall, which is when soccer is.
Actually, in Texas, soccer is the winter time. So like you don't really start soccer until I think it's like November, December. I just remember like we couldn't go anywhere Christmas break because you had to practice Christmas break. Anyways, I'm getting on a tangent.
That's funny. I didn't know it was different than what Ashley just said because I've only ever lived here for sports.
Yeah, it's fall most places.
Yeah.
All is football in Texas. Real football.
Oh,
That's probably also why.
yes.
They cancel all of their sports. Anyway, this is
You're
good.
fine. Oh man. So lots of running. What I found for me, especially I kind of fell off of it. And then it was when the Scott deployed in 2017 where me and a couple of girls, and I think Harder to Kill just had a ton of running stuff. And I think that was the first time I'd ran for an hour straight since doing cross country and whatnot. And so what I found is instead of rowing or biking, if you want to get better at running, you have to run. That means you got to do your intervals running. That means you do your long distance running. That means, because practice makes perfect, right? So that's what I found for me. Like I ended up just telling myself, okay, you're not going to row today unless it was raining or something like that. Then I just made myself run. And all of our mile times, that was a goal. They all decreased, right? So, which was a PR for a lot of us when that happened. So you just kind of have to do that. And then I highly suggest, in order for normal people who can get shin splints like me and it hurts terribly, you have to make sure that you get the right type of shoe. Your Metcons for longer runs, like for that hour run, I would not suggest wearing those at all. I know all of us could probably go around the room and talk about our favorite running shoe, but make sure that you get some, except Kyle.
What's a running shoe?
But yeah, so I suggest to get some good shoes that, if you're trying to improve or you're trying to run, a race, a 10K or anything kind of longer than a 30-minute, 25-minute run, then definitely invest in a pair of good running shoes. Yeah, that's my opinion on that and how to get better on running. If your tempo or cadence, like me, like I've always talked about jams and beats, you can actually get an app that, actually it's not a jam, if you will, or song, but it's kind of like what do they do in band where they've got the metronome that just dun, 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 dun.
I don't know, you're married to the drum major or whatever he is,
I am.
the maestro.
That's true. You can it's kind of a metronome and it can help you improve your cadence, like make yourself go faster. And it's just for some reason, for some people, when you hear that downbeat, it makes you want to run with that downbeat. Does that make sense? So these are very useful tools that I've kind of used. I haven't necessarily used the metronome app because I think it's monotonous and it gets on my nerves. So I just use tunes instead.
Nice. That sounds like a good way to build up some mental toughness, though.
Oh, no. Here
Metronome running.
New Media Show Saturday called Metronome.
Wow, you guys are one step ahead. I was literally thinking, I was like, wonder if I could craft this into a Meet Yourself Saturday.
Oh,
and
no.
like you had already said it. Okay. Well, here's my story with running. I didn't really care about running until I got into college and I was in ROTC and I had to do well on PT tests for the Air Force. And even then I didn't care that much about running, but I had good run times. Like I could run a mile and a half in like 9 minutes flat, like 9:15, 9:20, something like that. Like, cause for me to max it at that time, I think I had to run less. They've changed it since, but I had to run less than 9:12.
Yeah, 9:12.
So I always wanted to do that. So I would run 9 flat, 9:10, something like that. And I'd always max it. And people were like, oh, well, you're a good runner. Well, I don't know. I ran track in high school, but I ran like a 100 and 200. I never ran like faster than that. And when I would be finishing like my last lap, I would literally be like dry heaving the whole last lap. I wish I had a video of it. This wasn't a time when people took lots of videos of things, but there would be videos. It'd be on YouTube if smartphones were as readily available. But that's how I would just try really hard and basically be vomiting my last lap. And why am I telling you this? Because I've had a very bad relationship with running. And if I would like be like, you know what, I want to get better at the mile and a half. I know I need to run more. I started running more. My knees would hurt. My lower back would hurt, like all these things. And so I realized I'm really bad at the execution side of this running thing to where ending my Air Force career, being smarter about things, I could run a 9:30 or a 9:15 and just gracefully walk off the track and be done. It wasn't like a near-death experience like it used to be. And I purposefully tried to get better at running. So I just want to share some of the things that I did. Barefoot running. Now, this is something I have to asterisk. Be careful with how you implement this. But barefoot running actually helped me a ton because it forces you to take more of that midfoot to forefoot strike, which I think will make you faster in the long run. If you are doing barefoot running and you are heel striking, it's going to be really bad. So don't do that. Learn how to do it. Now, how do I recommend you start would be grass or a field, either truly barefoot or get some of the Vibram like barefoot type shoes if you want some coverings on your feet, but just doing like 100 yards at a time, 50 yards at a time. These small intervals to work on your form. I did a lot of this, and then I would just run in the grass, for like, I worked up to a mile and then 2 miles. And I really think that helped a ton with my form. And I used to get shin splints all the time. And I had this dude tell me who, his name was Conrad. That's all I can remember is the last name, Air Force. Anyway, Conrad, he was on the cross country team at Texas Tech University. He ran like a 7.5 minute mile and a half, not a mile.
Holy cow.
Mile and a half. And so I went to him. I was like, dude, how do I get better? Like I'm getting shin splints. I'm trying to run more. I'm getting a lot of shin splints. And he, no joke, he wasn't messing with me. He's like, yeah, I used to get him a lot. He's like, try running backwards, like throw some backwards running into your program. And I was like, okay. And so I started doing 400 and 800 meter backward runs, which make you look really awkward when you're just doing it on a track or wherever you want to do them. But it helped a lot. I haven't had shin splints since. Like after I started doing barefoot running and occasional, and I don't do either of those things anymore. I just did a lot of them for like maybe a year or two, and I haven't had any shin splints since. So those are some ideas. I had a similar point to Joe, like loosen up think about your upper body, but I just want to say loosen up, like make sure your traps are relaxed and you're not clenching your fists super tight or anything. And like, don't tense up. There should be no reason for any muscle to really be like tensed up when you're running. And it's just going to burn energy and make you uncomfortable. So try and relax your face, relax all the muscles in your upper body, and just focus on running. And then the last thing, 2 things. One, shorten your stride to try and cycle faster. So a lot of people think that to run faster, they need to take these long, giant strides. But when your leg gets too far in front of you, you now have like not enough leverage to stay good form. So try and keep more of an upright torso lean forward and cycle your legs faster. That's kind of like what the pose running technique is. You guys could look into that if anybody wants like a specific, how do I YouTube my way to success here? Pose running is a great method. And then the last thing, I was reading some studies on what muscles you can strengthen to get better at running. And a lot of people, think it's like, okay, you got to do a bunch of lunges and for your quads and glutes and hamstrings, but it's predominantly your calf muscle that needs to be strengthened, especially if you're having issues. So I don't recommend sitting around doing calf raises or barbell calf raises or anything like that. I actually don't think they're as helpful, especially with running. Double unders. Do a lot of double unders because that jumping is a lot of impact and it can be really hard on your calves, especially if you're getting started. Anyone who's done 1,000 double unders in a row, i.e. broken arrow, you might not be able to walk for a day or two. And that's just, but it's good to build up that calf strength. And I think that's my last tip on things you can do to get better at running. So throw some double unders into the program or just single unders. So it's really just jump rope. Just that jumping up and down is a lot of impact on the calves that can build up some running strength.
And linear progressions aren't just for strength.
Yeah. Don't start with 1,000 double unders and 2 miles of barefoot running. You will be dead. So, all right, that's it, guys. What's the workout this week?
What the Ruck?
My least favorite one.
Yeah.
Sounds like your most favorite.
Nope.
So let me pull it up.
I like Kyle's note. Don't know what it means, but I like it.
All right, so it's just a 3-mile ruck, and you're going to wear 55 pounds or 35 pounds for competitor male-female. Established male-female would be 35 pounds, 25 pounds. Recruit male-female would be 25, 15. It's a 3-mile ruck for time, and that is the workout, but there is a buy-in. So the buy-in is 60 pull-ups, kipping allowed, 70 hand release push-ups, 80 squats, 90 sit-ups, 100 burpees. So just knock that out real quick, and then you can start your 3-mile ruck for time. So let's get into tips, tricks, and strategies. Ashley.
My little note, I just said, I love the buy-in. Like if it was just this buy-in, it should be called the Ashley Meet Yourself Saturday. I like the buy-in. I know, weird. So, this is the first Meet Yourself Saturday that I actually met myself, and I was actually like cursing Jared Moon. I'm pretty sure this is the very first time I ever cursed your name out loud. And we were with, I was on a track. And so I did Kyle's suggestion, so I won't talk a little bit about that, but make sure that you are moving as soon as you're done with that buy-in. Pick up that ruck, whatever it is, and pick that weight accordingly. Make sure that you don't go too heavy. I know, some people see it and they're like, I have to do established or I have to do competitor level. Make sure that you can do that for 3 miles. It may be a walk, a lot more than what you want it to be, which is where I met myself because I did not want it to be as much of a walk. But shuffling is good too. And then I was on a track, so I was able to see like, okay, I can go 100 here. Okay. And then walk 100 and then go faster this 100. And then, but if you're not able to do that, find visual points, like go to that stop sign and then, walk whatever. So
Art licking.
Yeah, I'm just trying not to take it from Kyle. I'm sorry.
We had to. You were saying everything but the word. I had to say it.
I didn't say it. I just described it in detail.
Pretty much. No, but my suggestion is right after those burpees, definitely get after that 3-mile ruck. Just start moving.
Awesome. Kyle, what do you got, man?
Ashley stole it despite her best efforts. No,
she was doing good. I'm the true person who ruined it.
Yeah. The last time we talked about this on the podcast, I described what I had done for it and learned what fartlicking was, because I didn't know up until that point. But so my note was just fartlick like mad, and so you can think about that while you're doing this. Just repeat that in your head.
I was trying to figure it out.
But basically that on the ruck part, by the way, I'm not a fan of the buy-in. So Ashley, you're just crazy. The ruck part is fun though. I enjoy that. But I realized that walking the whole thing was going to take me a very, very long time. And I didn't want to spend that much time rucking. So I decided that there were going to be portions of the street that I have to do this on, portions of it that I was going to run/shuffle, and portions of it that I was going to walk. And so that's what fartlekking is. You just pick a point and go faster for this portion and then slow down and just kind of make intervals out of it. So that's my suggestion. Just fartlek like mad.
I love it. I think Trampus has some pretty interesting things to work with for new t-shirt ideas
on Instagram.
All right, Joe.
So last time we talked about this, I had yet to do What the Ruck, and I have still yet to do What the Ruck. So I'm just going to say...
You can do this one, right? Like, what are you missing in your current setup? You can do it this weekend.
I don't have a ruck. I don't have
you have a
that
backpack
kind of thing.
Did you? Yeah,
yes,
you just said I don't have a ruck.
I don't know what the... there's not enough canned foods in this house to fill up a backpack. And I'm not doing the kettlebell again. That hurt my hip last time. Not happening.
You were out for like several months with that.
That started the PT train, by the way.
A bag full of hammers or tools.
Yes, because I have a bag full of hammers, because you don't just need one hammer. You need a bag full in your house.
I have way too many hammers. So maybe that was just a suggestion for me.
You should get your chili pad for the air and just carry it on your back.
I don't know where this is turning.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So I'd say break up the reps because they're not, you can't partition them, but make sure you have a plan for this. So you don't just reach muscle fatigue in the beginning. The hand release push-ups are going to catch fatigue fast. So maybe do them in 10s and then see how it goes from there. Cause you can always add more as you go, but don't just be like, yeah, I'm going to knock out this in 25s and then you're just done. And you can only do like 3. So do that. And then just go for a jolly little walk.
Jolly little walk. You have books. I see books behind you. Do you have a scale? You can weight your books in the backpack.
Don't micromanage my life.
Oh yeah. Do you have any textbooks? Textbooks are great.
This isn't my house. I don't know what is in here.
Well, okay.
I think if you wanted to do it, you could find a way. And I think that's where we are.
It's possible.
All right. So I'm going to give my advice. And I just want to go back to why Meet Yourself Saturday exists. To meet yourself, to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, find out where that internal chatter or dialogue is a little bit negative and you got to turn it around. So having said that, my advice for the buy-in is to do it as fast as possible. Right? Like all of my advice. Yeah. So anyway, and I get this from a lot of people of Joe just kind of mentioned it. So I'm trying to tread lightly here, but just go as fast as you can. Make that hurt like it's the only workout you're doing for the day, the buy-in. Just make it awful. Because to be honest, a 3-mile ruck by itself is not going to be meet yourself quality for most people. For some people who've never done a ruck before, if it's super heavy, yeah, you're going to get uncomfortable in the back and the shoulders, and maybe it's new for you. But I'd say most people who participate and are training regularly, 3-mile ruck is not going to be the end of the world or even close to meet yourself event. But it will be if you treat the buy-in like your life depended on it. So do that. That's my only advice. Make sure the buy-in is the hardest thing you've ever done in your entire life. Then strap on the ruck and go for 3 miles. So that's my official advice to make it a true Meet Yourself Saturday. Otherwise, it's not. I've done the slower version. It's not as bad. It's just like, yeah, that's over. But I've also done the version where I get to the burpees and I'm like, okay, how fast can I do these burpees? And it makes the 3-mile ruck way worse. So, which is good. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. Everybody?
I think that's why you put 100 burpees at the end. Let's be for real.
Yeah, that's the showstopper too. Everything moves pretty fast. And then you're like, oh, dang. Mm-hmm. Wow, this came out of nowhere. All right. Anything else from anybody?
No. Let's see if we can get Joe to do this one, guys.
Yes. Hashtag Joe do what the ruck. I'm not trying to start any hashtags. Okay. Anyway.
It might be a little long for a hashtag.
Yeah. We can workshop it. But for now, we're going to get out of here. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you're enjoying this on your device, if you could leave us 5-star review, positive comment, it really helps the show out. And maybe I'll have to motivate people with some giveaway action here in the near future for reviews. So that could be coming. Killing Comfort book, go grab it. If you haven't already, all versions are out. Just go to killingcomfort.com to get it. You can grab the planner too if you get it. And join the challenge. And that's it, guys. Go to garagegymathlete.com if you want to get in, like be really in. Like I know we got all the YouTube videos. You can get the Meet Yourself Saturdays for free. I get it. But you're not really a part of the community until you're in the community. You know what I'm saying? It's like Facebook and like entering in the app and just true pain and like misery. Look, we're your friends there. And we want you to be a part of everything that we're doing. And if anything I said sounds exciting to you, then you're definitely cut out for what we're doing at Garage Gym Athlete. If you're like, these people are batshit crazy and I don't know, I just got here, this is my first episode, that's fine. The Peloton is calling your name. If you think this everything we're talking about is awesome, welcome to Garage Gym Athlete. Go start your 14-day free trial, and we would love to have you. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.